Hello, in this video I want to show a clever way to light yourself on camera if you are vlogging at night. The most intuitive way of doing that would be to take a small LED light and put it right here on the top of the camera on the hot shoe mount, but if you keep watching this video you will learn that you can actually do better than that. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so normally when you're out and about vlogging during the day, you normally wouldn't even think about it, because normally when it's daytime, given that it's a sunny day or an overcast day, there's always the sun that is providing enough ambient light for you to just go about and vlog and go and just focus on your story. You don't even need to think about the lighting. You can flip your camera to some kind of a semi-automatic mode. For instance, if you want to use a semi-automatic mode and not full manual, I would recommend to use the shutter priority. Set it to 100 degrees of the shutter angle, and then you are good to go, and the camera will adjust your aperture and your ISO accordingly to the ever-changing lighting conditions. But if you want to take a little bit of more control, which you may already be doing, you probably want to use as wide aperture as you can in order to get this creamy kind of nice depth of field. And if you want to do it on a sunny day, you probably even use an ND filter here on your lens in order to cut down the amount of light that reaches the sensor, so you can use a low ISO, you can use a wide aperture in order to get shallow depth of field and still maintain the proper shutter angle, which in terms of like shooting 30 frames per second would be 1/60th of a second, and in terms of 24 frames per second would be 1/50 of a second, in order to get natural motion blur. But what if it's getting darker? What if it's sunset? What if it's beyond sunset? What if it's twilight? What if it's the night? You definitely, if you remember to, you took off the ND filter in order to not cut off the amount of light that's reaching the sensor. Then what you probably do, you start bumping up your ISO, because this is the first thing that you can do. This is the most the easiest way to do that, is to start bumping your ISO. But at a certain point, the ISO is so high that the image just looks like garbage. It is so noisy, it is so ugly that you don't want to raise the ISO beyond certain limit. For instance, with my Canon EOS R that I have right here, I think the safe limit for my ISO for video will be like 6400. But if you use an older camera, or maybe a camera with a smaller sensor, this one is full frame, so if you're using an APS-C sensor, micro four thirds, 1-inch sensor, or even something smaller, then definitely the safe ISO with reasonable amount of noise may be much lower than 6400. Then what you can do, if you didn't already, you can open up the aperture. But if you're already at the limit of the aperture, for instance, this is the 24mm prime lens from Canon f2.8, so the widest I can go is f2.8. And by the way, I have a full video review about this lens. This is one of my favorite lenses of all time. You can check it out right here. And if you cannot open it any further, what you can do, well, you can invest in a more expensive lens. You can buy a lens that opens up to f1.8, 1.4, 1.2, even if it's possible for your camera system, because previously I was shooting on a Canon 77D, which is APS-C, and the widest I can go with an ultra wide angle lens was f2.8 from Tokina. The Tokina 11-20 f2.8 was the lens I was using, and it can only open up to f2.8. Then what you can do, well, there's actually a trick that many of the people may not realize, is that you can actually change your shutter angle. You can go with the shutter speed from, for instance, if you're shooting at 30 frames per second and normally you're shooting at 1/60 of a second, you can actually prolong the shutter to 1/30 of a second, which is the maximum you can go, because obviously the shutter cannot be open for a longer period of time than one frame takes place. And by doing that, you are getting one stop of light for free, because from 1/60 of a second to 1/30 of a second, there is one stop of light to gain. Of course, the penalty of using that would be that you are introducing more motion blur, so you have a lot of motion on the camera. If you're filming some people like running or something like this, it may be actually noticeable on the footage that the footage is a little bit smeared out over the camera. But I think it's acceptable if you're shooting at night, and if you're just going and vlogging and talking to the camera, many people will probably even notice that. So this is definitely something you can do. And then what you can do, because sometimes even of those steps it's just not enough, then, well, you need to put some kind of light on the camera in order to provide the additional light that you don't have from your ambience. But first, let me actually show you a sample footage I have taken when I was out in the night. It was way over sunset. And I had some street lights on the side which I thought might be helpful, but honestly I had to use like 12,000 ISO on my camera, just enough to make the image somewhat bright so I can actually show something when I was talking to the camera. So let me show you that crappy image right now. So as you can see right now, with any light on the camera, the image looks pretty terrible. I am currently shooting with an f2.8 aperture on my lens, and I have to shoot it at 12,000 ISO in order to make the image somewhat decent. So it's probably very noisy, it's very flat, the colors probably are way off because I am just lit by some tungsten street lights. So let's see how we can do better than that. So as you saw, the image looks pretty terrible. The lighting is flat, it is definitely, the colors are off, the image is noisy, it just looks terrible. And the way to fix it is just to put a light on the camera. Well, that's like the first iteration of what we are going to do here. And for that, I'm using this APUTURE MC. This is an excellent LED light. I can highly recommend that. Links to it will be down below in the description if you want to pick it up. This light is bicolor, which means that you can dial in any color temperature of white light that you want, and also full RGB, so I can actually dial in any kind of color that you want. And you can even control it with a mobile app with a nice color wheel, so you can dial in the exact color that you want. And also this light has an internal battery, it has a magnet, it comes with this nice diffuser, so I can highly recommend that. This is not the cheapest option, so I will also put some cheaper options down below in the description if you don't need the RGB and you just need a white light to light yourself on camera. So let's put on this diffuser and let's actually put it on the camera. So for that we are going to need some kind of a ball head, something that screws in with a 1/4 inch standard screw into the light. Right here I'm using a ball head from APUTURE. I will also leave some links to an appropriate ball head that you can use for that purpose down below in the description. You just screw it in, and right here there's a hot shoe mount, so I can put that on the camera. So let me just do that. Let's tighten it, and then you can undo this and you can adjust the position of the light. You can turn it on, and that's it. You can just walk around like this and you have a light that provides with enough brightness for you to actually vlog at night. The problem with that lighting is that it is very flat because the light is right above the camera. But before we dive in any deeper, let me actually show you a sample footage I have taken the other night with this kind of setup. So let's watch it right now. And right now I have this little LED light right on top of my camera, so the image looks way better right now. I am able to shoot at only 800 ISO, so the image should be a lot more clean, but the image looks kind of flat, you know, because the light is dead on center right above the lens and it is illuminating my face equally. So there is no shadow, there is no depth to this shot, so I think we can do even better than that. So let's see how we can do that. So as you have seen, the image looks a lot better. I was able to use a much lower ISO in order to get the same kind of brightness overall level on the image. And that way the image was way cleaner. I have way better separation from my subject, which was myself, and the darker background, and it overall looks pretty cool. But like I have said in the intro, you can actually do better than that, because lighting for video is not just about the brightness of the image. And some people, some cinematographers may even say that lighting for video is definitely not about the brightness at all, but it is about creating depth and creating contrast. And normally in a studio-like situation, what is generally recommended to do for the key light, which is the most bright light in your setup, is to put it off angle at about a 45 degrees angle. And right here in this setup, as you can see, the main light is coming from this angle. It is about a 45 degrees from me and a little bit upwards, and it is upwards because of to resemble and kind of recreate the kind of shadows that you are normally used to, because the sun is also coming from the top on people's faces, and this creates the kind of shadows that most people are used to, and they are generally looking, you know, familiar and normal. So that's why normally the light is put a little bit above and a little bit to the side of the subject. But how can we do that if we only have the camera? We don't have a separate tripod, separate light stand to put the camera on. We are constantly on the move. So can we do something like this to put the light a little bit off the side and a little bit upwards? Well, we can, but we need some kind of a little bit more accessories that I'm about to show you right away. So the first thing that we need is this kind of this is called a hot shoe extender, and I originally got this for a different purpose. Like I mentioned already, I was using a Tokina 11-20, which is an extremely noisy lens when it comes to autofocus. So I was actually using this extender to put it on top of the camera in order to move the boom mic a little bit further from the lens, and that way cut down the noises that the microphone was registering from the autofocusing that was happening inside the lens. But you can actually put it on the side like this and mount the light on that. So let's do that. We can undo this screw, we can put it here. As you can see, it is off to the side, and then if we put the light on here, it will be coming from the side of the camera, but it will still be affixed to the camera, so we can still be on the move. We don't need to be confined to a certain place with a separate tripod that we wouldn't be able to move as we can with this GorillaPod setup. So let's put the light on, and because we need the light to be a little bit upwards, I'm going to use a different ball head. So instead of using this small aperture ball head, I'm going to use something like this. This is called a double ball head from Small Rig. I will also put links to Amazon down below to both the extender and also the double ball head from Small Rig, so you can definitely pick it up. These two are super cheap, so don't hesitate, just get them. Okay, so let's put it in here. It also has a hot shoe attachment on the bottom, as you can see, this double ball head, and then you have a 1/4" screw up here, so you can put our light on that. So let's do that. You're just going to put it on here, and then we can loosen this ball head screw. We can move this around, put it to the side, tighten it, and if I turn it on, you can see that I have a light that is affixed to the camera. It's to the side, it is upwards a little bit, so it is coming from this kind of an angle. Maybe it's not exactly 45 degrees, but even a little bit off angle will definitely provide you with a much nicer look, and it will create this contrast on your face with a brighter and darker part. So let me show you the sample footage I have taken with this setup, which is our final setup, so you can see the difference between that one and the previous ones right now. And right now we have our final look. So the light is now a little bit to the side and a little bit to the top with regards to the position right above on the hot shoe of the camera when it was producing a very flat light. Right now we have the brighter part of my face and a darker part of my face, which creates, in my opinion, a more pleasing look. And the best thing about it is that it's affixed to the camera, so I can move around, I can rotate, I can walk, I can go and vlog, and in my opinion this is a perfect rig for vlogging at night. You get a clean image and a somewhat compact and convenient rig. And what do you think? In my opinion, this looks way better, of course, than the first setup, and also a little bit better than the second setup. It may not be a huge difference, but it's definitely the extra mile you can go in order to get a better look and just this finesse kind of a touch to your final look if you're vlogging at night frequently. And I actually do vlog at night somewhat frequently because I cover a lot of topics related to astrophotography on my channel. So I go out into the field, I sometimes record myself when I'm doing something to my tracker, to my setup, and showing stuff. So if you're into astrophotography, definitely check out the stuff that I have on my channel already. One thing you can definitely need to be careful about actually is that you don't want this to bump into anything while you are walking or running or on the move, because it can actually cause the hot shoe mount to kind of break off camera and terrible things would happen. So just be careful with that. If you're on the move, if you're switching locations, definitely take that off. Do not travel with this attached somewhere in the back of your car, in the trunk or something like this, because it can damage the hot shoe mount. And also be aware of the fact that sometimes using a bright LED light might not be possible given the circumstances that you are at. Sometimes it just might be too obnoxious. If you are surrounded with a lot of people on some kind of a concert, somewhat outside or something like this, using an LED light will be obnoxious and people will definitely not appreciate you doing that. So sometimes you just need to go with the super high ISO and noisy image. Sometimes you just don't have a choice. But if you're alone, if you're just walking, if you're maybe sightseeing a city after sunset and you're not making other people uncomfortable or something like this with this setup, then you can definitely use this tip in order to get an awesome image. All right, that's basically all I had for you for this video. If you like this, make sure to leave it a thumbs up down below. I would really appreciate that. Also, comment down below if you have any questions. Maybe you have a better setup in mind. Show me some pictures, share it with me down below in the comments. Also, if you want to reach out with me and talk to me on a chat or something like this, you can reach me out on Instagram or Twitter. Links to my profiles will be down below in the description. Also, like I said, check the links in the description for the products like the hot shoe mount, the light, the double ball head, the ball head from Aputure. And also consider subscribing to my channel because I post new videos pretty much every single week, and I already have a bunch of videos on my channel related to both photography photography and filmmaking. Basically, my channel is all about things you can do with your camera. So definitely browse through my channel. You will definitely find some interesting stuff there already. And right now, check out these 2 videos. They will probably be interesting to you, and subscribe here for future videos like I mentioned. See you next time, hopefully, and have a good day. Bye bye.